All right, let's dive into a pretty wild idea today. What if Facebook isn't just a social network? What if it's actually evolved into something much, much bigger? Something that looks a lot like a global digital religion. Now, I know that's a bold claim, so let's unpack it. Okay, so is Facebook really the world's newest and largest religion? This might sound like a bit of a stretch, right? But the argument we're digging into today says this isn't just a metaphor. It suggests the parallels between Facebook and organized religion are, well, structural, psychological, and maybe even a little intentional. So how strong is the case, really? Well, first, let's just talk about the sheer scale of this thing. We're talking nearly 3 billion active users. 3 billion! That means its congregation is literally larger than Christianity, Islam, or any other organized belief system on the entire planet. This isn't just a user base, it's a global population plugged into a single unified digital world. And that massive scale is paired with, well, listen to this quote from one analysis. It says Facebook has methods of control that would make medieval church hierarchies envious. Whoa. I mean, that's not just a clever turn of phrase. It really gets to the heart of the argument that the platform has basically perfected these ancient techniques of social influence for our digital age. So let's start right there. What does it even mean to call something a digital religion? Because, this isn't about worshiping a god in the traditional sense. Nope. It's about understanding the deep architecture of dependency and control that's been built. So here's the core idea. A digital religion is a system that borrows the playbook from traditional faith. Things like ritual, community, a promise of salvation. But it re-engineers all of it for a totally different goal, a commercial one. The endgame isn't spiritual enlightenment, it's user engagement and ultimately data extraction. So if we follow that logic, every belief system, every religion has a deal. It makes you a sacred promise. And in return, it asks for a price. So let's take a look at Facebook's version of this grand bargain. And here is a really key parallel. Traditional religions, they often promise salvation from suffering, maybe in the afterlife, right? Well, Facebook's promise is salvation from some very modern, very immediate kinds of suffering. Loneliness, the fear of being irrelevant, and maybe the biggest one, the fear of social death. In a world where we can feel pretty isolated, it's offering itself up as the only life. And what's the price for this salvation? Well, a traditional religion might ask for, say, a 10% tithe of your income. Facebook's price? It's much more total. It demands what some sources are calling the attention tithe, which is basically 100% of your data, your focus, your habits, everything. This quote really hits home. The platform transforms intimate human experiences, births, deaths, marriages, struggles, into commodities to be packaged and sold. Just think about that for a second. Our greatest joys, our deepest sorrows, our biggest milestones, they're not just moments we share anymore. They become the raw materials for a business model that's designed to do one thing: keep us scrolling. But of course, any religion needs more than just a promise and a price. It needs a structure. So next up, let's pull back the curtain on the forces that are actually governing this digital world. Its rulers, its rituals, and its unwritten rules. So who or what is actually in charge here? Well, in this system, the ultimate authority is the algorithm. You can think of it as a kind of digital priesthood. It's this invisible, all-powerful force that decides what you see, when you see it, and who gets to see you. It's unknowable, kind of like divine will, and its goal isn't your happiness. Its goal is to keep you engaged, to keep you sitting in the digital pews. And like any good religion, it's got rituals. I mean, do any of these feel familiar? That first scroll of the day, almost like a morning prayer. The little box that asks, what's on your mind? Like a secular confession. Sharing photos of big life events becomes a public testimony. And don't even get me started on the mandatory birthday wish, a true sacred obligation. These aren't just random habits. They're designed as little loops to build our psychological dependency. And this whole system imposes a really strange rule on us. See, in the real world, you act a little different with your boss than you do with your grandma, right? But Facebook forces this thing that sociologists call context collapse. It just flattens your identity, making you perform one single kind of sanitized version of yourself for absolutely everyone you've ever met, all at the same time. So all of this brings us to a really critical question. If you don't like the rules, if you don't like the rituals, why not just leave? Well, this last section gets into why walking away from the congregation is so much harder than it sounds. So what happens if you decide you want out? If you want to leave the congregation? We've all heard the advice, right? Just delete your account. But the system is specifically, brilliantly designed to make that choice incredibly painful. It actually punishes the people who try to opt out. And this right here is the price of what some have called digital excommunication. And look, this isn't just a list of features you'd lose. This has become the actual social fabric of modern life. You could lose years of family photos and memories. You're suddenly cut off from your community groups, your hobby groups. For many, business connections vanish. You disappear from social planning. In a very real way, huge chunks of your own personal history, they just go poof. This quote just puts the cost of leaving in the starkest terms imaginable. Churches ask for faith in unseen rewards. Facebook holds your visible past for ransom. Wow, that's a powerful idea, isn't it? The platform's real leverage isn't some promise about the future, it's its iron grip on your tangible, visible, digital past. Leaving means you have to leave a part of yourself behind. So when you look at the whole picture, the sacred promise, the steep price, the digital priesthood running the show, and the punishment for leaving, it really all boils down to this one final question. It asks us to look at our own time on the platform not as just using an app, but maybe as an act of faith. And then we have to ask ourselves, who does that faith ultimately serve? Is it you or is it the platform?